I'm recording this ahead of the ban announcement. I'll be doing a full video talking about the bans in Modern come the announcement later today. But in the meantime, I want to talk about why some cards with Discover, one card with Discover, is being banned today. This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com. Use code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order and help support the show when buying singles or sealed product for Magic the Gathering or any other product that Cool Stuff actually stocks. They even sell Pokemon cards. With the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, we've been giving a new mechanic called Discover. As seen here on Daring Discovery, a 5-mana combat-y tricky thing, it's just Discover 4. Exile cards from top of your library until you exile a non-land card with mana value of 4 or less, the number described in this instance of Discover, in this case 4. Cast it without paying its mana cost, or put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. For those amongst us whose backs aren't okay and our knees hurt, you'll recognise this mechanic as a variant or a fixed version of Cascade. Back in the before times, long ago in 2009, the Shards of Alara block, the second set from it, brought us Cascade. Bloodbraid Elf is one of the more famous cards to have Cascade, although Cascade still sees play today in cards like Violent Outburst and Shardless Agent. Cascade reads similarly. When you play this spell, so when you cast this spell, there's a trigger. Remove cards from top of your library from the game until you hit a non-land card that costs less than this spell. You play it without paying its mana cost. Put the removed card on the bottom of your library in a random order. There are some big differences here. With Cascade, it was always designed to go play a 5-drop, Cascade into a 3-drop. If a 3-drop has Cascade, Cascade into a 2-drop, and so on. The idea is that you were cascading down a chain of value as a payoff for playing the mechanic. In reality, what it meant was that Bloodbraid Elf hit Lightning, which was such a good combo in Standard that it actually stopped people from playing Jace the Mind Sculptor until this rotated. Or Bloodbraid Elf was actually banned in Modern for a while because people thought Bloodbraid Elfing into a Liliana of the Veil was too good. But in reality, Cascade has been used as a combo in older formats. Shardless Agent and Legacy for the longest time would, thanks to cards like Brainstorm setting up the top of your library, cascade into spells that traditionally have a no mana cost. In this case, Ancestral Recall. And by Ancestral Recall, I mean Ancestral Visions. I can never get the two names cleared up in my head. But either way, Shardless Agent would draw you 3 cards. Over in Modern, things like Violent Outburst that I mentioned earlier would cascade you into Living End, another suspend spell. You see a synergistic combo here of suspend spell plus cascade spell? Yeah, so Living End would allow you to put creatures into play that you'd put into your bin, namely cards that you cycle through that would have high CMCs that you couldn't cascade into because they weren't cheaper than Violent Outburst, but had an activated ability on the card to cycle them into the bin, like this Recluse here. And then Modern Horizons brought us the Rhinos. Crashing Footfalls means that now predominantly people will cascade into making 2 4/4 Rhinos. So Cascade was always this overly valuable, like, extra add-on to a card that was flavorful and fun to resolve, but ultimately resulted in combo decks for the most part, or combo mid-range decks in the case of old school Bug, Shardless Bug. So what's up with this Discover then? It's like a fixed version, right? Well, kinda. If anything, it's kind of improved. Firstly, it is not upon cast. With Bloodbraid Elf, there's a trigger before the elf ever resolves. In the case of creatures, like the Geological Appraise that we're going to talk about more in a moment, it's actually an enter the battlefield trigger. Or going back to Daring Discovery, it's just a line of text on the card. You just discover at the end of it. Beyond that, they can tweak it, right? These cards can have a certain Discover number on them, which is the bit where it gives you some tailor-making to how powerful this could be. For example, a 3-mana Discover card could say, be a 3-mana Discover card with Discover 1 on it, for instance, if they really wanted to give Living End another toy. Weirdly, both instances of the cards that are seeing a huge amount of play, all 3 of them actually, are all discovering for 1 less than their current CMCs. They're just doing what Cascade used to do. Beyond that, if you don't cast it, you actually just put it into your hands. So the card is never really wasted, even if the creature that you're trying to Eldritch Evolution, which I'll come to more in a moment, dies. So there's a few cards that are seeing play. Trumpeting Carnosaur is seeing play in the Quintorius deck in Pioneer, and it's also seeing a little bit of play in the Creative Technique deck in Legacy as a 6-mana fatty that has Trample and Discover 5. Interestingly, it also has an activatable ability when in hand to be discarded to deal 3 damage to a creature, giving you a removal spell that doesn't fuck around with a Discover. When you're playing Cascade or Discover, you can't play low CMC or low mana value spells because you might accidentally Discover or Cascade into them. So historically, these decks have to play high costing stuff. For example, at the moment, Bedevil, Bedazzle, Bedankle, Badiku, I've put it on screen now, I can't remember the exact name of it. This card sees quite a bit of play in these decks because your CMC or mana value of this card is the combination of both halves, and thus you cannot discover into it by accident, but you still get access to it as a 2-mana removal spell for troublesome creatures like Thalias or aggro threats. So Carnosaur is like the cohesive glue of just being a solid Discover card that's seeing play in multiple decks. Both the Appraiser, the Quintorius deck in Pioneer, and a Legacy CMC combo deck that I think is kind of bad. Next up, we have the Elephant Boy himself, who is not pregnant in this image. At 5 mana, it's a Planeswalker that whenever you cast a spell from Exiles, whenever you discover something, you shoot the opponent for 2 and gain 2, yet a mini Lightning Helix. Its +1 is largely irrelevant, it makes a 3/2 body. Its -3 is the important part, it discovers for 4, and its -6 is exile any number of target cards from graveyards, add red for each card exiled this way. You may play those cards this turn. I hadn't played the deck on Arena yet because Clever Impersonator has not come to the client. Clever Impersonator comes next week to make this deck good. In essence, with the Quintorius deck, you are playing nothing below 4 CMC, and the only 4 CMC stuff you're playing are Spark Double and Clever Impersonator. So when you discover 4, you hit a Spark Double or Clever Impersonator, it gets cast, it pings your opponent, and you copy Quintorius. That was a difficult sentence to say. You copy Quintorius. Spark Double sticks around, so when you cast your next spell by discovering off the Spark Doubled Quintorius, you shoot them for 4 and you gain 4. The Clever Impersonator one will be destroyed, but it allows you just to trigger another casting. But the upside is if you have it come into play and copy the Spark Doubled Quintorius, then it copies the non-legendary element of that clone effect. So if you do get the, just by chance, Spark Double into Clever Impersonator, you now have 3 copies of Quintorius in play. So when you discover the third one, you're getting 6 more damage. 2, 4, 6. That's 12 damage right there. As you can see, this combo is basically deterministic. As long as you haven't drawn too many parts, your opponent doesn't kill one of the parts, you will hit a critical mass after 4 or 5 loops of just killing your opponent unless they've gained a shit ton of life. This deck, I think, will probably still be around after the changes that come today, because I think Quintorius is just a bit more expensive 1 turn later, and thus more easy to interact with, and it combos with less stuff, I guess. There's a small chance that it is still too good, though, and gets hit later. Or I could be talking out my arse to get hits today, but what I do think will get hit with ban today is this one. Geological Appraiser. Let's talk about this combo. It's super interesting that this is in the same format, so Explorer and Pioneer, and to a lesser extent Historic, and it's a different combo involving the same mechanic. In this combo, we are looking to get to 4 mana and cast Geological Appraiser, which has this really interesting ETB. It says, as long as you cast it, you get to discover 3. What this means is you hit one of 2 things. You hit another Glasspool Mimic, which is a clone at 3 mana that copies your Geological Appraiser, and because you cast it via the Discover trigger, the copy also discovers 3. The other 3 mana spell it can hit is Eldritch Evolution, which allows you to sack one of the appraisers that you've made and jump to a Carnosaur, which will then discover 5, hitting you either an Appraiser, a Mimic to copy an Appraiser or a Carnosaur, and discover again. Then you eventually evolve either an Appraiser or a Carnosaur into a win condition. Torrential Gearhulk is played, but with my dozen games I played this morning, I never needed it. Instead, I went and got this giant from Cowderholm that gives everyone +1/+0 in haste, and then you smash your opponent's tits in. I played 12 games this morning, I went 10-2. I lost to Mill, which milled parts of my combo, and then drowned the lock to the key part. You basically got to keep a interaction card for the key part here, both in Quintorius and Appraiser in the Appraiser deck. I also lost to the white life gain deck that floats around, the Cleric Angel shit you see in Historic and Pioneer quite a bit, or Historic and Explorer on the ladder. That thing just gained so much life that I could only hit it for like 35 damage, and it had 80 life, and then it had a 16-point swing in the back with flyers and angels. It was impressive. The key point is that a removal spell at the right opportunity, for example, killing the Geological Appraiser as you try to cast Glasspool Mimic so you can't copy it, or killing the Quintorius with the Spark Double on the stack, will just fizzle the combo. But this is reminiscent of another deck that people do not, well, some people remember very fondly and Wizards don't, in Twin, where if you don't have the removal spell in a certain window, you just lose the game on the spot. It is a deterministic combo that says you're fucking dead. For that reason, I don't think it will last very long. Inverter of Truth didn't last very long. It'd be really interesting if they got rid of this and then added back Inverter, because it feels like they'll be getting rid of one Twin-esque deck to add another. Importantly, before someone tries to correct me in the comments to sound very big brain, it isn't really like Twin, because classically Twin could play at instant speed, which these decks cannot, and Twin could also play a control or tempo game plan of like nickel and diming you with 1/4s and 2/1s, and then just going for the combo once it felt like the coast was clear. These decks don't do that. These decks turbo towards winning. You're trying to fire them off early by jumping the Beanstalk in the Quintorius deck, or by using like Magma Opus and similar to make treasures in the Appraiser deck. These are cards that won't get discovered by the Discover 3 or Discover 4, but can still ramp you mana so you can fire off faster and turbo out your combo. They are very glass cannon decks that I think are actually beatable if you're ready teching for them and know how to play the metagame. When you see your opponent play certain lands, you're like, I think they're on a Praiser combo. I'm not going to tap out on turn 3 and die on turn 4. I guess there was an element of Twin there where like you think your opponent's 1 mana off, and then on turn 2, at the end of your turn, they cycle or discard a Magma Opus and make a treasure, untap, play a 4th land and go off. And you're like, well, fuck. Guess I shouldn't have played my 2-drop creature. So my guess for today, this video might come out shortly before the ban list. At time of recording, the ban list is probably happening in an hour or 2 from now. I think Appraise is going to go and they might let Quintorius live. I don't think they want to ban more than 2 or 3 cards in a format. I assume it's going to be Khan and Appraiser. Khan for format diversity and fun elements, and Appraiser for fun elements. I don't know if either of these cards are even good enough to dominate the format, but there might just be things they don't want to exist. To this day, I believe that Twin was removed not because it was in the interest of competitive diversity, it was more in the interest that Twin wasn't a good look on camera or for the format. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have you played either of the Discover decks? Are you getting sick of running into them in the best of 1 queue and getting van over? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the ban announcement video in a couple of hours. Or, weirdly, you might have watched that video and came to this one, in which case, welcome from the future, you fucking time-traveling cunt. See you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.